To Capitol tonight. For decades, the relationship between the state and Native American tribes has been strained, to say the least. In 1997, Governor Pataki's attempts to collect taxes on cigarette sales and gasoline led to protests, with members of the Seneca Nation setting fire to tires and shutting down the thruway. Now, in recent years, both Governors Spitzer and Patterson have also stepped up efforts to collect these taxes, only to see their efforts blocked by the courts. This year, Governor Andrew Cuomo has said that he plans to continue talks over this very contentious issue. And earlier this week, he sat down with the president of the Seneca Nation, Robert Odawi Porter, to discuss this, among other issues. And the president is joining me now from Buffalo tonight. Mr. President, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, Liz.
It is very good of you to join us. I appreciate it. So I just wanted to note, and I was actually speaking to you off the air before the interview, you and the governor have something in common, which is that you were elected on the very same day. Do you think that this gives you some affinity and a jumping off point from which to start negotiations?
Well, it's certainly a point of connectedness. I'd like to think that, for example, the 4,000 people in Western New York who work at our casino might also be a source of connectedness as well.
Sure. Yeah, that would also, since they are also his constituents, of course. This was the very first meeting. Can you just tell us a little bit about, before we get into the substance, how was the tone? Because as I mentioned, I mean, the relationship here has not always been a strong one, generally speaking, between the state and the tribes.
I do want to clarify, on Tuesday I met with the governor's counsel and secretary to the governor.
I see.
I had met the governor a couple of weeks ago when he delivered his State of the State address in Jamestown.
I see. Got it.
I certainly would say in the few moments that we were together, we did express a willingness to work with each other. But obviously we have a lot of work to do. Our relationship is in a very bad, very low point in our history.
Okay, so there are a number of outstanding problems here. Now, and the first one that I'd like to talk about, if you don't mind, is the state being at odds not just with you, but also with the St. Regis regarding revenue sharing payments. This is having to do with the belief by the tribes that there's been a violation by allowing other nearby casinos to operate gaming facilities. Is that correct? Electronic gaming?
Yes, that's correct. There are 3 state racinos in our zone of exclusivity in Western New York. Each of those 3 have since been rebranded as casinos and have been marketing slot machines. And so on the face of it, we perceive a violation of our compact, and we believe that the state is cheating us out of the exclusivity to which we are otherwise entitled under the compact.
Okay, we're talking about more than $200 million here, so it's not a small amount of money, particularly at a time when the state has a $10 billion deficit. So is there some happy medium other than the extreme, which would be to have these other facilities that you consider in violation shut down, which I can't imagine that the administration is going to do?
Well, we do have to have a dialogue, and I guess that's what I've invited of the governor. The Patterson administration had sought to invoke arbitration in the last hours of Governor Patterson's tenure. I've asked the current governor if he would withdraw that request so we could at least have a chance to sit down to see whether there's any hope of resolving the dispute through negotiation. And
so far, no, there has not been any movement on that?
There has not. I know it's on the governor's table for him to be working on. We've not commenced any discussions on it at this point, but I hope to do so in the near future.
I found this actually really fascinating. There was a recent report in the New York Times that it actually was contained in the rejection by the federal government of the new Catskills Casino, the agreement, again, that was brokered by Governor Patterson in the waning days of his administration with the Stockbridge-Muncie, who, of course, are based in Wisconsin. But there was a discussion there about how the state had hoped, when it approved these casinos going forward a number of years ago now, that they were tapping into a big revenue generation. But you even acknowledged that that idea, which seemed good at the time, perhaps isn't working out the way it was supposed to?
Well, no. I mean, first off, that proposal was highly flawed as a policy and legal matter, and it's good to see that the federal government rejected it. But what we'd like to do is refocus on what we've got in our hands, which is economic opportunity here in Western New York. It is the case that the nation is otherwise agreeable to its exclusivity